In today's video, we will be making one of the best large format cocktails for the summer, the Sangria. So we're going to show you all the ingredients that go into making Sangria. We're going to go ahead and make it alongside you, and stay tuned to the very end because we will show you a couple of really interesting techniques that will deliver even more flavor in your next batch of Sangria. Hi everyone, I'm Chris from A Bar Above. I'm a 15-year veteran of the bar and somebody that loves making fun and delicious cocktails like the Sangria. So when we are starting to gather all of the ingredients that is associated with Sangria, this is where we start. The wine and the base spirit are a really critical selection point for this particular cocktail. So the wine, we can go any direction we want. I chose to go with a little bit more light and fruity style wine because those are going to match with the other ingredients I'm using today. Now the base spirit here is about complementing the wine as well as increasing some of the alcohol level of the drink. Now this also has the benefit of being able to extract even more flavor out of the fruit that we're going to use in our Sangria. Now speaking of fruit, you can use whatever is around you and in season. So what looks good right now in our supermarket was apples, strawberries, and oranges. So that's what we're going to go ahead and add into our Sangria. Now the last couple elements that we're going to add into it is a sweetener, so simple syrup in this case, and that's going to add some nice richness and sweetness to the drink. Now to kind of balance that sweetness out, we're going to add some acid. And finally, the last ingredient that we're going to add to lighten everything up, because right now everything's a little bit on the rich and round side, we're going to add either water to thin it out or a sparkling water to really lighten it up. You could also add any other sparkling element like ginger beer or even some Prosecco or champagne. And those are all the ingredients that we typically use in Sangria. Now that we have all the ingredients ready to make our Sangria, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So you can either create this right into a punch bowl or a serving vessel like this one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding all my elements in here, and I'm gonna start with my fruit. So I'm just gonna add that right in. Just give it a nice, kind of good representation of what's going in there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give everything a light muddle. So the muddle on this is just going to open up everything so that the alcohol can get into it and infuse even more into the Sangria. So you don't need to go crazy. You're not making salsa in here. Just lightly press everything. And that's one of the benefits of having a really long muddler is you can do things like that. So the next thing that we're going to do is add our simple syrup in there. And then we're going to go ahead and add our wine. I'll show you a quick tip. If you give it a simple turn like that, it turns into a tornado and it empties real quick. And finally, we're going to go ahead and add our spirit. And the beautiful thing about Sangria is you can add as much or as little of the spirit as you want to achieve the balance you're looking for. So now I have my base pretty much set, and I'm just going to let it sit there and infuse until my guests start showing up. Now, I obviously have a lot of liquid in here, so I'm going to go ahead and decant this into two different vessels, but the final touches are going to be adding my sweetener or adding my acid, and then finishing and topping it off with my sparkling element or my water. So that's pretty much how we build this out and how we hold it. And the longer it sits, the more it's going to go ahead and infuse in there. The last important thing here is to just go ahead and give it a stir to get all those ingredients really married together. And that's it. So we'll see you in a couple hours. Our Sangria has been infusing for a couple hours now, and our guests are just about to arrive. So it's time for us to put our finishing touches on our Sangria. So all we have left to do is add our acid to increase the vibrancy of this, as well as the sparkling element or the water. We're going to choose to go with water in this case. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my ingredients ready. With my acid, I have orange juice and lemon juice. I'm just going to go ahead and combine those two elements together since I went ahead and split out my Sangria because I ran out of room. So just going to go ahead and put those together and just give this a quick stir. And we're just going to add that right into our Sangria batches. And finally, we're going to add a little bit of water here. Now, just like with the alcohol, you can really have a lot of flexibility on the amount of water or sparkling element that you add into your sangria. If you want something a little bit lighter, a little bit more like session oriented, we're gonna have a lot more of these. You can definitely add more water or sparkling element to it to make it easier to drink. If you want something a little bit more rich and intense in flavor, obviously you're gonna back away from some of the water that you're gonna add in there. And the final touch is just go ahead and give it a quick stir to incorporate all those new ingredients. There we have it. We're pretty much ready to serve our sangria for our guests now. I went ahead and put the extra in the fridge as a backup and letting it cool until my friends arrive. But until then, I think it's time for me to kind of reap some of the benefits of all the hard work that went into making this and taste it for myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this all up and pour myself a nice portion of sangria. Just make sure I got the recipe right. Love the color of this. And finally, the last portion is to make a fun little garnish here for our sangria. So there we have it, our sangria. There we have it. We have a pretty straightforward sangria here. It's definitely easy to drink, a crowd pleaser, and it's gonna go pretty fast if I had to guess. Now, when we take a look at sangria through the lens of adding more flavor, this is where it gets to be a lot more fun. So there are two things that we can do to transform and add more flavor into any cocktail, sangria in particular. So the two things are something called substitution and something called infusion. So substitution is just trading something like for like. So when we take a look at this, I'm gonna go ahead and create mentally a fall style sangria and use those two techniques to transform those flavors. So my selection of wine and base spirit is gonna go ahead and reflect that fall mentality. So something with some barrel age to both of them. So a nice hearty red wine paired with a barrel aged spirit like a dark rum or a bourbon or a rye, for example. Now, when it comes to fruit, I can go ahead and make a fruit selection based off of that flavor profile I'm trying to achieve. So whether that be apples, pears, or pomegranates, those can be my new flavor components that I'm adding in here. And finally, on the syrup side, I'm gonna trade out my standard simple syrup that I used in this example, and I'm gonna add something with even more flavor, maple syrup. So just through the selection process of ingredients, I've went ahead and transformed this and made it much more fall focused. Now, the second technique that we can apply to this is infusion. So whether that be through your base spirit or syrup, we have a lot more flavor we can add just through infusion. So with the base spirits, we have that barrel-aged spirit that we mentioned earlier. So now we're gonna go ahead and infuse even more flavor of that. So whether that be herbs, spices, or fruit, we can add that and infuse that into our base spirit. Same thing can be applied to our maple syrup that we identified as our sweetener. So now we can add even more maybe teas in there that has really cool herbal notes to it, or herbs and spices and fruit. All those can be present in that maple syrup as well. So once we apply substitution, we get a different profile to our cocktail. Once we add even more technique like infusion on top of that, now this is where it starts to elevate and change what is possible in a simple sangria. So there we have it. We have made sangria. We have identified all the different ingredients that go into making sangria, as well as some techniques that can be applied to add even more flavor into your next batch of sangria. So if you found this video interesting, I highly recommend taking a look at our flavor manipulation series over at shop.abarabove.com. We take a deep dive into all the techniques that we outlined throughout this video, and I'm sure you're gonna find it interesting. So we're gonna have some more cocktail videos for you in the future, but until then, I hope you guys are enjoying your favorite version of the sangria. Cheers.